Okay, this video is pretty much a comprehensive list of the shots you're going to need if you're going to be a decent snooker player, starting from the very top with a break-off shot. Okay, the break-off shot. You could play this in a basic way. You could play this from the end red with no side, but I think that's not the right way to play it. So if we're talking about the shots you need to be a very decent snooker player, you've got to play the break-off the right way. So it's the end red with running side, which if the cue ball's between yellow and brown, that's right-hand side. If you prefer this side of the table, maybe you're more comfortable playing with left-hand side, it's left-hand side from this end red. But for me, it's this side of the table. So it's running side of the last red. So the cue ball comes off this cushion, in between pink and blue, this cushion, and then somewhere near the baulk cushion behind the green. If you get the snooker as a bonus, but the most important thing, try and get that cue ball as near to the baulk cushion as possible. Okay, we've not got the baulk cushion, but you can see the direction of the cue ball. This cushion, this cushion, this cushion. We've run inside. As I say, at the start of this, a bonus was to get the snooker behind the green. We've got the bonus, we've got our opponent in trouble, but preferably, I say, get near that baulk cushion. But that is the break-off. Okay, screw shot. Obviously, there's three sort of main shots that you play when you're break building. You're either screw shot, it's either topspin shot, or it's a stun. So let's go through them. Screw shot, you're on the black here, you want to screw off this cushion for a red to the same pocket. The sort of principles of the screw shot are a nice low bridge, hand nice and low. Obviously you're gripping the cloth with the fingertips, raising the knuckles, thumb up to meet the hand, so that gives a solid path for the cue, and the cue parallel. Now you see some players, like Ronnie, Jack Lazowski, a couple, they actually aim down on the cue ball, which is another way to do it, but the problem with that is if you put a bit of unwanted side in the cue ball, you've got to be very, very skilled to play that way. So I prefer to have the cue as parallel to the table as possible, and then it's a matter of slow pull back, head still, and deliver smoothly through the ball to get the reaction. It's not so much about hitting the ball hard, it's about tempo, it's about timing, and it's about smooth through the ball. Say you've got it again in a minute, you start to do this business to try and get the power on, try and speed up your cue action to get the power on. It's the wrong thing to do. It's about timing, it's about smooth, and then you'll get the reaction on the white. Okay, topspin. Obviously the opposite direction the cue ball is going to travel, but it's basically the same principles as a screw shot. It's about timing the cue ball well, it's about smooth through the cue ball. It's not about hitting it hard. Only difference really is your bridge hand, instead of being low for a screw shot, you're raising the knuckles even more, even higher, because again, you want to keep the cue parallel with the bed of the table. You don't want it aiming down on a topspin shot. So raise the butt, the cue, raise the bridge hand. It's virtually the same strike of the cue ball as the screw shot. So stun shot basically means you're stopping the cue ball where the red was. It's a straight shot here, so we're just stunning for the black. So when I play a stun shot, it's basically, it's middle of the cue ball, but maybe slightly below. When we played the topspin shot, when we played the screw shot, it's virtually the same speed of the tip of the cue through the cue ball. Again, slightly raised bridge. We were low for the screw shot, we were high for topspin. Obviously we're going just below the cue ball, just below the middle of the cue ball, I should say. So it's a slightly raised bridge. But again, it's virtually the same delivery as the other two shots. I mean, there was hardly any difference with the speed of the delivery of the cue for screw shot, for topspin, and for stun. So it's all about raising the bridge of the hand and striking the cue ball in a slightly different area. A drag shot is a very important shot, I think, to know how to play, especially in this example here. We've got the red over the pocket. We want to play position on the black. Now you could play this topspin, dead weight, slow. One thing, you're letting the table dictate sometimes, because the table can roll off if you're playing it dead weight. So I like to play the shot with drag because you can give the cue ball a more positive strike. You can hit it with more power, you can control what the cue ball's doing. So what is drag doing? Basically, it's backspin. So the first half of the cue ball's journey is backspin. The cue ball's like that. The second half of its journey, it turns to topspin, and that gives it the momentum to get to the red. But because of the backspin first, you can play it more positively. Very much like the screws and topspins, it's smooth through the ball. Now I'm going to play it again because I just got a little bit too much drag on the cue ball. I need to play this with a bit more pace. I probably hit that 4 out of 10, maybe needs 6 out of 10. Obviously, how fast your table is dictates as well. This is a pretty slow table. So I hit that a lot harder. And there you see, got the cue ball out perfectly for the black. So the secret of the drag shots is being positive through the cue ball. Okay, let's talk safety shots. The safety shots that you're going to need to be a decent snooker player. The first one is pretty basic. It's the one where it's a thin contact off the red because you don't want to bring reds into play. You're going to get the cue ball back down to balk without giving your opponent too much chance. So we're aiming in the middle of the cue ball, thin contact on the red. You can see that's a pretty basic shot. Kept it pretty tight. We've not opened any reds up, so that's a basic safety shot. So the second shot is an attacking safety shot. We played a thin contact before because we didn't want to open up any reds. So it was basically, if you, in terms of power, shall we say 2 out of 10. This is different. We're ramping up the power here because we bring more reds into play. So you're maybe going 5, 6 out of 10 in terms of the power in the cue ball. So thicker contact, hit it harder. You can see, open the reds up. Still got the cue ball back down the balk end, but the fact we've opened reds into play puts our opponent under a bit more pressure for their return safety shot. So the third safety shot that you're going to need to play well is rolling up behind the balk colour. It may sound a simple shot, but what you want to do is get the cue ball as close to the object ball, whether it be green, brown or yellow, as you can. Because if you roll up, say that, okay, we may have the snooker there, but because there's space between these balls, makes the escape easier, gives your opponent more options. Try and get as tight to the green as possible. So this is quite a good shot to have, to be able to play this well. Now, you might see some pros playing this with drag. I find this a very scary shot because I find it quite difficult to judge the pace. So I find that an easier way is to middle of the cue ball. You don't have to get really low on the shot. And I find it a lot easier to be able to control the cue ball to get it close in behind the greens. So if the green's there, okay, you're snookered, but you've got all that room to hit. Because the green's close, all of a sudden, your opponent's got to come off more than one cushion. So that's quite an important shot to be able to play well. Obviously, to win snooker frames, you've got to pop balls. So let's start with the very, very basic. So we've got an easy red here. There's a little bit of angle on it. So what I always say is come round, look at the red in a straight line with the pocket, get that potting point, which is there. You can see it quite clearly. Don't take your eyes off it. Then you can come round, you've still got that potting point there, and then it's a matter of just cueing smoothly, keeping your head still. Head still, the most important thing in snooker. Keep your head still, makes it much easier to pop balls. Okay, once you've mastered, obviously, potting easy balls, then the more distance between the cue ball and object ball, things tend to get a bit more difficult. So it's still the basics. You still got to get, obviously, a good stance, keep your head still and deliver the cue smoothly. But obviously the more distance, those things become even more important. This is a straight pot, so finding the middle of the cue ball is very important. You do your waggles, it's quite important to feel the shot, and then it's a slow pull back, head still. So when you miss from distance, it normally means that you put a bit of unwanted side on the cue ball, which means you've not delivered the cue in a straight line. So what I would say when you're doing your waggles, before you bring it back the last time before delivering the cue, make sure that tip is in the middle of the cue ball. So we're feeling the shot, tip to the middle of the cue, see it there. Head still, listen for the object ball hitting the back of the pocket. Obviously, a lot of times you're going to find yourself in this position. You played a bad positional shot. So cue ball tight in the cushion is as hard as it comes, really. I always think the most important thing with these shots is just trying not to be too clever. Just make sure you pot the ball. And for me, the principles are, some people go right across the cushion, but I find that I would miscue, I think. So I prefer to just slightly aim down. I'm a little bit hampered by this table and plant, but never mind. Very, very loose grip here on the cue. Very, very loose. I think that's really important. Middle of the cue ball, because you just can't physically put side on this, because it's just impossible to pot this black if you get any side in the cue ball. So middle of the cue ball is very important. Loose grip, and obviously head dead still. Well, that shows you how difficult. I've obviously got left-hand side on the cue ball there. Unwanted left-hand side, because as soon as I put left-hand side on, it just dragged the cue ball this way and pushed the black up there. Such a difficult shot. There you go. Keep dead still, as I say. Do not try and do anything fancy with that cue ball. Just make sure you pot the ball. Long potting is obviously, I think, one of the most important things a top player can have. By potting a long ball, you're creating a chance to score. Obviously the red we're going to see here is down the black end of the table. If you're playing for the black, more often than not, there'll be reds all over the place, so if you miss it, you're going to leave your opponent in. But obviously if you pot it, you're creating a chance to score yourself. So long potting is a hugely important part of the modern game. Again, the principles are, you see the shot, and then it's all about cueing straight and basically just keeping your head still. Wait for the red to hit the back of the pocket. Again, the reason for missing is unwanted side and possibly the most minutest lift of the head. So important to keep the head still. So your head was dead still there. The tip of the cue is basically still in line with the middle of the pocket, which means, and it doesn't happen very often these days with me, that was an absolutely perfect bit of cueing. Okay, a swerve shot, a shot that you're going to need. No doubt, it doesn't crop up every frame or even every day, but it will crop up. We've got a shot here where we're kind of half ball snookered from the red that's over the pocket. We need to bend the cue ball round the pack, on this side of the pack, which means using left-hand side. The left-hand side obviously pushes the cue ball to the right, but because we'll be aiming down in the cue ball, it's going to bring it back and hopefully pot the red. So it's about raising the butt of the cue a little bit. I've got my right foot slightly off the ground, aiming down on the left-hand side of the cue ball, and it's a matter of, again, just smooth through the ball. To bend the cue ball round the pack and pot the red. So all these shots, the same principle. Smooth, stay still, and just nicely through to achieve what you want to do with the cue ball. Okay, using the rest. Now you're going to have to use this. Sometimes there's no avoiding it. I will say I'm not the best rest player the game's ever seen. I think if you look at Sean Murphy, Karen Wilson, they're incredible rest players. There's different sort of philosophies with the rest. You can hold the rest with your hand. That feels better. I always prefer, if I can, obviously there's balls in the way, that dictates it, but I prefer to have the rest on the table. I think the biggest bit of advice I would give using the rest is trying to have the same rhythm, the same tempo, the same cue action as you've got when you've got your normal bridge hand. And the same principles then apply. It's just about delivering smooth through the ball, keeping your head still, and then potting the ball. Obviously, as you get more advanced, you can do different things with the cue ball, but I think the important thing using the rest is, as I said, try and keep the same cue action, try and keep the same tempo, don't get too steep on it, try and be more level, and yeah, it's a very important shot to know how to do well. Okay, another long pot, which is obviously very useful in a game of snooker, is what we call the shot to nothing. So it's a long pot where the red, you've got an angle on the red, you can't really, too much angle really to stay for the black, and you want the cue ball back up this end of the table should you miss the red, safety. So there's a bit of angle on this, you've got to hit this harder, probably 7, 8 out of 10 in terms of pace. This side of the table, I'll be playing with a little bit of run inside, which will be right hand side, to help the cue ball speed up and get back around the table. Now, people always ask me, what are you looking at last? Now everyone's different. Some people look at the cue ball before they strike it, some people look at the object ball. It's a difficult thing to know what the right method is, because some players are what we call object ball players, some players are cue ball players. So yeah, I'll describe what I'm going through when I'm playing the shot. So start off obviously looking at the cue ball, getting where I want on the cue ball to hit. Then I look at the object ball. I actually glance at the pocket, back to the cue ball, back to the object ball, and slow cue ball. Okay, that wasn't a very good example of a shot to nothing. I potted the red, but the object obviously was to get the cue ball back up the table. So let's go again. You can, as I said before, potting, you can come around and have a look. You'll still see professionals do this. Get the potting point of the red, and then it just goes in there. So again, look at the cue ball, object ball, pocket, cue ball, object ball, pocket, cue ball. Now you see, potted the red, brought the cue ball back to a safe area of the table. I should have missed the red, obviously with no idea where the red ends up. A little bit unlucky not to have a pot, but you probably play a little tickle behind the brown and you've got control of the frame. Okay, a cool shot to know how to play well is a plant. That obviously means putting one object ball onto the other. Obviously, if the reds are directly in line, plants are almost unmissable. But there's a little bit of angle on this. If we see the straight line on this red, it's taking the red past the middle pocket. So a bit of advice is you get down as if the first ball is the cue ball, and just pretend you're going to pot the red in the middle pocket, and that gives you kind of the potting point for that red. So we've got to put this red slightly wider of the other red to achieve the potting angle for the middle pocket. Now, if we keep on this, say, a plant into the middle pocket, what happens if the balls are touching? Now we'll put that to the same point of where the last one was. So before we had to go down and sort of this angle to pot the red, as if we were potting it. When they're touching, it's the opposite, because the first red actually squeezes the other red towards the middle pocket. So instead of the natural way, hitting this side of the red to pot it, we've got to go that way. It's the complete opposite. So always remember, when the two reds are touching, it's the opposite way than you would normally go with a plant. Okay, some people ask me, well, a lot of people ask me actually, how do you know how much to allow for the side when you're playing with side? Because obviously if I'm playing this pink with the right hand side, the first thing the cue ball wants to do, obviously you're hitting it the right hand side, is shoot it towards the left. So it's all about how hard you hit it, and everyone's different. Every player I know down the years allows different amounts for side. They strike the cue ball slightly differently. Some pros now are using a titanium ferrule on their cue, which means that you can actually aim for the potting point as if you're playing plain ball, but you're actually playing with sides. So it takes all the allowance of where you aim out the equation. But so if I'm potting this pink, it's pretty much a, I don't know, quarter ball, half ball cut. So if I'm playing right hand side, as I say, the cue ball wants to dive to the left. So you've got to allow for that. So you've got to aim slightly thinner on the pink, just to allow for the push, as we say, of the cue ball. So say, aim on the right hand side. So you see the running side taking it up there, but say I want to bring the cue ball for this red to the same pocket. So now I need to use check side, which when the cue ball hits this cushion, it'll come in a straight line. Running side, it would hit the cushion going up that way. Check side, let's bring it across this way. So now, if I'm aiming the left side of this cue ball, it's going to want to dive to the right. So now I've got to aim thicker on the pink than the normal potting point. So look at it. So I'm aiming almost 3/4 ball here when the pot is half ball. So you see the check side, bringing the cue ball across here. So for running side, aim thinner. For check side, aim thicker. Cannons are known how to play cannons, how to judge them become very important. It's a more advanced part of the game. It's somewhere the likes of Mark Allen excels. All the best break builders in the world, they know how to judge the cannons and how to see them. It's a little situation here where no reds pot into this pocket. Now it's not a shot you have to hit hard. So basically it's just a stun up into this red here. Another important thing when playing this is never take your eye off the pot. So many times you see on TV, that a player will get the cannon but miss the pot because they're watching the cue ball. So make sure before you get down, you've told yourself the shot you're going to play, almost commentate in your head, saying I'm going to pot the black and I'm going to stun up and I'm going to cannon another red to leave me on one to the corner pocket. So get the pot angle. So I missed that cannon completely because I went too high in the cue ball. And that's where the skill in learning these shots are, because it's all about the correct contact in the cue ball. So a little bit lower this time. That's better. So just move the red out of the way to leave this red into there. So it's about, cannons are all about feel. And the more you break build, the more you'll learn how hard to hit the cannon, how low to go in the cue ball. But the most important thing, never ever take your eye off the pot. Thin cut's very tricky because obviously the cue ball's hitting the object ball at a very acute angle. So then you're losing control of the cue ball when you're playing these shots to make sure you pot the object ball. And the thinner it gets, I mean, the principles we've said before with easy pots is so important to come round and have a look. Have a look at this black in a straight line with the pocket, because it is such a thin one, because when you get round here, when you play the shot, the pocket is nowhere near your eye line. You know, as I said before, I like to look at the cue ball, the object ball, and the pocket. It becomes very difficult to do when it's such a thin cut. The pocket becomes completely blind. That's what you'll hear us say in commentaries, this is a blind pot. That means the pocket's not in your eye line. So it's very, very important to have a good look at that potting point and come back. And it says, concentrate on the pot. Scraped in. I potted that black for a 147 against Jimmy White, so I know where to pot it. But yeah, come round and have a really good look. That's the secret. Okay, escaping from a snooker. Pretty simple one here. Snookered by the pink on the red. You paid attention at geometry in school. It's all about natural angles. If you hit the cushion level with the pink with no side, basically, you make contact with the red. It's basically simple geometry. The problems start is if you're not got an exact distance, it's not the same difference between the pink and cue ball, then you have to know how to judge with side, and that tends to be more about feel. You learn that as you go on, but say I hit the same point of the cushion level with the pink, but because the cue ball's further down the table, I've got to adjust the angle with a little bit of left hand side, and that just widens the angle to hit the red. So play about with it, judge the reaction. Every table's different, the reactions of the cushions, but learning how to get out snookers is obviously a pretty important part of the game if you want to close out frames. So a two cushion escape is quite a useful shot to know. You could come off one cushion, go into the reds, but what happens if you hit it a little bit too hard? You nudge a red out and you leave your opponent in. So the two cushion escape, to come off two cushions with a run inside. So from this side of the table, it's left-hand side. Off the side cushion, the black cushion, and flick the reds. Half ball, quarter ball, and try and bring the cue ball back up to the bulk area. Again, it depends on how fast your table is, how the cushions react, how hard you hit it, but I'm going halfway up the cue ball with that left-hand side. Flick the reds. Okay, we've been a little bit unlucky. If anything, we've caught it, well, I say unlucky. That red's come out, this red's no longer potable. So actually we've got away with it. But yeah, it's all about judgment. You'll see players playing that shot almost deliberately miss it the first time, because the last thing you want to do is hit it thick. So missing it thin, or missing it altogether I should say, thin, is not a bad thing, because you get the cue ball replaced and you have another go. So don't miss it thick. It's about judging the run inside of two cushions, and it's a useful get out. One of the most important shots in break building is bringing the reds into play, splitting the pack. So I'll show you a couple of instances how to play them. The blue is somewhat the best ball to use to open the reds, because it's an easier pot and the cue ball has got longer to travel into the reds. We'll play from the black as well, but when you pot the black, there's less distance for the cue ball to travel, so slightly more difficult shot. So the idea with this shot is to try and hit the pink full in the face and try and hold the cue ball in the middle of the table. It depends how quick your table is, but say you're on a brand new cloth, you actually don't have to hit this too hard. It's all about timing. Quite low in the cue ball. Again, that might have sounded as if I hit that very, very hard, but it wasn't. It was probably about 7 out of 10. It certainly wasn't 10 out of 10, but you can see that, okay, the cue ball came off the cushion, but we've got a thick enough contact on the pink that we kept the cue ball in this area of the table, and we're nicely in the red. Okay, we blocked the black up, but pretty good result. But the most important thing is get as thick a contact on that pink as you possibly can. Any thinner, you can lose the cue ball to the corner pockets, but yeah, I'd take that result. Okay, splitting the reds from the black. Now, this is a shot where you might automatically think you've got to go really low on the cue ball. Very rarely that's the case. You want to go higher up the cue ball. You almost want to stun into these reds, because if you go too low, the cue ball tends to come back onto this cushion. So the stun into this red, again, it can vary because the shapes of the reds can be different all the time, but it's about knowing what red to hit. In this instance, it's this one here, because this will go into the reds and we can stun off that one quite easily. We play this with a little bit of right-hand side, because if the cue ball does go towards a cushion, we want the cue ball to go that direction, not that direction. So again, not full pace. So the cue ball's gone to the cushion, and with the side, it's gone up the table. Nice split the pack. Let's have a look. We're on this red here. So you say, you didn't have to hit that full pace, just as long as you hit the optimum red, the rest of them will open. Okay, you don't want to play this with extreme topspin, because it obviously depends on how old the cloth is, but it can hit the cushion and the cue ball can actually arc out this way and go up there and completely miss the pack. So I like to go a little bit lower in the cue ball and play with a touch of running side, which in this instance is right-hand side. If you're there, it'd obviously be left-hand side. As usual, don't take your eye off the pot. So again, I play a little bit of stun almost off that cushion with the side. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, pressure pots. Obviously, if you play competitive snooker, you're going to have to be able to pot balls under pressure. And what's more pressurized than a black ball game? So I'm trying to, I'm thinking back to what I did actually if I had a pressure shot. If I was sat in my chair in a black ball game, my opponent had left me this, I'd probably come to the table and take a couple of deep breaths really, sort of settle yourself down, visualize the shot. You're thinking it's, visualize it or hear it hitting the back of the pocket before you've even played it. As we say all the time, come and look at the potting point. And then it's almost like, again, like a commentary in your head. I'm going to pot this black in the back of the pocket. I'm going to stun it in. I'm going to play it medium pace. Decide all these things before you get down. Because if you get down in the shot and then you start to think, I'll hit it this hard, or I'll hit it this hard, or play with top spin, or play with stun, you've lost it. You have to decide 100% the shot before you get down and then fully commit. So I'm going to decide, I'm going to pot this black, I'm going to stun it, medium pace, make sure you get it. Try and hit it too hard, gives you more chance of missing the pot. And that's another thing actually, in a black ball game, when I say fully commit, you don't ever hit it in a way of thinking, well, if I miss it, I might get safe. If I play it too hard, the black might run safe or the cue ball might. You never think of that. You think about potting the ball and nothing else. So I'm going to pot the black, stun the cue ball. So I've potted the black. See, I've left the cue ball in the middle of the table. So if I'd missed the black, I probably would have left it on, but the important thing is you do not think of anything else but potting the ball in a black ball game. So that's a pretty good way of ending with that pressure shot. Hopefully you've got a pretty comprehensive list of shots to get you going and becoming a top snooker player.